What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Simple Man Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Batista. I'm here with the G, Manny Rivera. Manny was a 2008 All-American. He accumulated that year a record of 20-0 in duels, which we got to talk about at some point. That's pretty impressive. In 2007, he helped the Minnesota Golden Gophers win a national title after following up that year previously with a national runner-up finish. Manny Rivera was a former head coach at CSU Bakersfield most recently. Manny, dude, it's good to have you on, man. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Has been a while. How's everything going?
It's been going good. Just trying to navigate life and work-life balance as best as possible, which I've discovered as I've gained more responsibility. It's getting harder and harder to do.
What's the toughest part for you?
The toughest part, and I think, dude, you're interviewing me now.
I know.
I think the toughest part is like trying to balance, like when you go home and just be home. And I think as I'm taking on like more responsibility, like obviously, I mean, with the podcast and then like our kids club and then our high school team, I feel like I'm always getting texts and calls, this is a good thing. You know, it just means that people can come to me, but it's also like, it's like 9:30 and like, I'm trying to like spend time with, somebody I really care about and take very seriously. And, I like being home. I feel like, you've been coaching in college for over a decade. I mean, how would you deal with that kind of stuff?
If I felt like answering it, I would, and if I didn't, I wouldn't. That's basically how I handled it. It's obviously like you could determine how important it is, or how urgent. Really, I mean, most things are probably important to someone, but it's like, is it life and death? Is it pretty serious? Well, you might, or just say, hey, I'm busy, follow up tomorrow. But yeah, I think the more you do it, and you're probably getting there as you keep coaching and getting yourself involved in more and more coaching, you could kind of determine what's what and where you're going to invest that time. But yeah, I mean, it ends up being pretty simple, because I guess the mistake is you try to do it all and then you end up realizing you even can't, or you can't do it well anyway. So
yeah, I think when I first started coaching, like that was one of the things I would just get so frustrated about, was like not being able to delegate things and trying to do everything myself. And then when I would try to delegate, I used to get like super frustrated because it wasn't the way that I would want to do it.
Sure.
And that's a hard thing. And I think I've gotten older. I'd like to say I'm better about it, where I can delegate and just kind of let people just do their thing and, try to, give them some guidance, but also, letting other people grow a little bit and kind of check my own ego a little bit, which is hard.
Yeah, I think there's value in that in a lot of ways. I think sometimes you if you're able to step back and let someone run it their way, you might even learn more than you ever thought you could, right? It's like, wow, I've never done it. I never even thought about doing it that way. And then you're like, that might be better than the way I wanted it done. Just don't know.
Was that something? So let's talk. We just kind of go like in reverse order. When you were coaching at CSUB, I mean, you had 1, 2, 3, 4. You had like 4 or 5 different assistants kind of coming in and out. How would you, like, when you think about structuring practice and like, training cycles and trips and everything like that, how would you kind of delegate responsibilities? And, we definitely had some different coaching personalities on our staff. I guess, how would you kind of manage all that too?
I always knew that I wanted to share as much of like the coaching in the room as much as possible with everyone that was pretty heavily involved. Everyone that was on staff, or even like Efren Ceballos, who, wasn't probably there all day, but would show up to practice. Right. But, all these guys, I wanted them all pretty heavily involved in the practice part, practice planning, running practices, showing technique, sharing their philosophy. I just always thought that was pretty valuable to see different perspectives outside of mine. As far as all the administrative stuff, you kind of, I don't know, I didn't complicate it too much, kind of mostly try to play people to their strengths. And then even sometimes just give people like chances to grow something new, right? Like, oh, you've never done that. Maybe you're not good at it. Well, figure it out, right? Work on it. That's how you get better. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
So
where do you think that philosophy comes from? Is this something that you just over time have kind of just thought about, or is it something that you feel like, you've had influences over the years?
Yeah, I think mostly like I think about back in high school. I graduated from Rosemead High School. Coach Louis Madrigal always had other people coming in. He'd hire a bunch of assistant coaches who'd come in, show technique, and he'd actually show very little. So it was kind of one of those things where I saw it there. At Minnesota, J-Rob, every assistant coach would run a practice day of the week. So he was sharing the practice with other coaches. So kind of just something that I saw coming up and just kind of always liked, always enjoyed, always thought it was a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard getting like just a bunch of people from different backgrounds kind of all on the same page. And I think you can do it like, if people kind of take their egos out of it. But as I'm getting older and I'm starting to interact with, I think we'll see if it changes next year. But right now I'm the youngest coach on our staff. And it's hard being in a leadership position and communicating to guys that, are a little bit older than me. And that I have a lot of respect for, just like kind of talking about certain things, and just, whether it's from how to deal with athletes or how to deal with parents or just things like that. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to, I guess, to kind of balance all that stuff, but maybe high school is a little bit different. I don't know.
Yeah. There is always that, like you said, like, you don't know it's hard to tell until, like whose ego is going to get hurt when you say something, right? Like, I don't know. I've always felt like I've been able to mostly put my ego aside for what I think is best. So I didn't have issues with myself stepping back, but I think sometimes, yeah, you're kind of worried about, well, maybe I need to tell this to an assistant coach or some sort of staff that I need something different or something more, something less. And you just don't know how it's going to be received. But I mean, that's a part of growing and being in a leadership role and having responsibility. It's just, you got to have those conversations.
Yeah, for sure. So you talked about, so you graduated from Rosemead. I thought you went to El Monte for some reason.
I did. So I went 2 years to El Monte and then 2 years to Rosemead.
Okay. So you started wrestling before high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had,
I was fifth grade.
Okay. And then how much older your brother? You have two brothers?
3 older brothers.
You had 3 older brothers. Did they all wrestle?
Yep, they all wrestled. Like it increased as we trickled down. So like my oldest brother just wrestled high school, and he's like 9.5 years older than me. And then my brother Freddie, he wrestled high school. Well, started like I don't know, he must have been like 7th grade when he started wrestling.
Okay.
And then wrestled high school and junior college. David wrestled high school. He redshirted a year at junior college and then wrestled at Embry-Riddle, NAIA. So just kind of a few, it just kind of trickled down, a few different experiences. And then as it got down to me being the youngest, just wrestled more and more.
Yeah. So you started wrestling in 5th grade. Was there like a time, do you remember, where like you felt like you were really like into wrestling? Like this isn't just something, casually that you're doing. Like, was there something that you took it really serious?
I don't know if there was like a moment or like if it was like a decision. I just kind of always, like, I enjoyed it. I liked it. For the most part, right? There's always tough parts about it where you're like, man, that sucks. But no, it just kind of evolved. I just kept going to practice, kept going to tournaments. And then it was just like mostly gradual, just gradually cared about it more, gradually got a little bit better, gradually, started competing harder. And I cared more about how I competed and how I did. And, put more time in the preparation and all those things. But I don't know. I know it was probably, early high school, maybe at the end of junior high, where I was really thinking about winning at a higher level. It took a few years that, it's like, okay, I want to win like a state championship or whatever it is, right? So, but no, I don't know. I don't think there was like a specific moment for me.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah, and then I was going to ask you about college too, but I know you did the J-Rob camps when you were in high school, right?
Yeah.
How many times did you go?
I think it was like 5.
You went 5 times?
I think so. First one I went to was like 7th grade, maybe summer between 7th and 8th grade is the first time I
That's
went.
a hard time.
Yeah, I was tiny too, which sucked. I was like 85 pounds. So I just it sucked. I got my butt kicked by everyone. But and it was kind of funny because I wasn't planning on going. I wasn't even like I thought. And this is when my brothers were also at Almani. My brothers were wrestling for Almani High School. And the team coaches were sending a bunch of guys. And then one of the guys flaked like last minute. And they already had paid for the camp. So they had like a spot open. And then it was like a couple days before, maybe a week before tops, like they just asked my dad, like, well, does your youngest son want to go? And I was just like, sure. Next thing I knew, I was on my way to Pennsylvania for like the 14-day camp.
Dude, that's gnarly, man. Yeah. Did you have any like idea what like the camp was going to be about? Or just like, I mean, did you think it was going to be like camping? Like,
no,
go outside and have fun?
I knew it was supposed to be like difficult. I knew it was supposed to be hard. My brother Freddie had gone the year before, so I had an idea that was like really, it's pretty tough. So it's like, I know it's going to be hard. I didn't know exactly what all they did or, a lot of it, but I just knew it wasn't supposed to be easy. And yeah, I just got a flight and ended up at camp. That's crazy. I know, it's kind of random.
Do you have any like good camp stories from all the times that you went? This isn't necessarily a family show, so you can, I mean.
No, so all my good camp stories are from when I was working camps, not from when I was a camper. Camper, you don't really do too much, but you work camps, you have a little fun on your free time, and it could get a little wild. Used to. Unfortunately, J-Rob camps are done, but they used to be a wild time.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I know there used to be like a staff trip at the end of the camps, right? Like guys would go to Hawaii or something like that.
Yeah, it would move around a little bit, but so I went on the camp staff trip. I went to like Jamaica, Cancun, and then Puerto Rico.
Man,
so I went on 3 of them.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I would have too much fun.
Yeah, they were a blast.
I still haven't left the country yet.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
You got to go somewhere.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, what does that mean?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you on air. We can talk about it after, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, why you got a plan or something?
No, I just not going to talk about it right now, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I would want to go to like Mexico. I just talked to my oldest brother about it. That he went on this cool trip, and I was telling him, there's a chance, we might go soon. And he's like, "Oh, dude, like when you go, like I'll tell you." You met Michael, right? My oldest brother.
I briefly met him. I'm pretty sure he came to one of
he came into the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him, but he's like, oh, because he's a chef, and he likes to write, and he's like super creative and whatever. But yeah, he's like, oh, dude, I'll tell you like the best food and like what to order. That's not how he talks, but that's just my impersonation of him. But I don't know. I might go to Mexico. I think I've always wanted to go to Europe, but I don't know, dude. I like the United States too.
Well, yeah, it doesn't mean you have to dislike it to go visit. I mean, what is a 4-hour drive down to San Diego, get across the border, go eat some tacos, come back?
Yeah, I'll do that. Maybe next time I'm in San Diego.
Yeah.
All right.
How often you get down there?
Very rarely. I might do a camp this summer down there. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe when I'm down there, I'll just pop over on the other side of the border.
Do you have a passport?
Nope.
You need to get one of those.
Yeah, I should probably get one before I go to Mexico, huh?
Yeah, that would help.
But I mean, can't go to the border and be like, "Hey, guys, like, look at me," I'm over there.
It won't matter.
It won't matter. Okay.
Yeah, they won't let you. They won't let you back, man.
Yeah.
Actually, probably need it. Yeah, they won't let you down. much less back.
Huh. Okay. All right. I'll just have to keep that in mind if I think about going. When you were doing the camps, like I know at one point they had it during the 28-day camp, but basically it would be a day where like these different college coaches would come and basically you kind of got a chance to interact with them. I'm not sure if it was like that back then because it was University of Minnesota running it, so that would make a lot of sense. But really during that time, was that really where you started really thinking about college and wrestling after high school?
No. I honestly didn't put much thought into it until I started getting recruited. So I didn't get recruited till after my senior year of wrestling. And so I got recruited a little bit like halfway, like second half of my senior season, and that was basically Cal State Fullerton, so like the local D1 program. And that's the only school that showed interest. And even then, my plan, like my default plan and what I was planning on doing was just going to wrestle a couple of years junior college. It's probably going to go to Mount Sac and then look to transfer somewhere in the state, some Cal State, was Fresno or, Bakersfield or Fullerton or whatever. That would have been the plan. So with not a lot, that was like minimal thought into it. That's just like what I saw my brothers do. That's probably what I was going to do. So, yeah. Kind of strange, isn't it? Just kind of changed quickly. So,
Dude, that's such a you answer.
what do you mean?
No, just the more I listen to you, it's like you're so like you're so very like relaxed and very, I think I don't want to say chill, but you're such a chill person. It's interesting seeing like moments where I see you get like intense. There's been times during duels where I've seen you get pretty fired up, and it just seems like when it comes time to compete, you really bring that intensity out.
Yeah,
How do you make that switch?
I don't know. I'm mostly pretty chill. Like I know I am. I like being laid back. I don't like getting like worked up. Like I hate getting worked up really more than anything. And then when it came to competing, I just kind of really like developed like just being able to compete. Like always try to compete with like a high pace and a lot of action and trying to wear guys out. So I was able to kind of develop that style and grow into a style like that. But for the most part, I've always been just pretty laid back, go with the flow, which has been like good and bad in a lot of ways. It could be a double-edged sword, but it's maybe in some ways I've thought about this, like, oh, maybe in some ways it's like, I probably could have thought about that a little bit sooner and put a little bit more emphasis in like, whatever it may be, like just, maybe I should have been a little more intentful in some of the things of developing my wrestling. But because I'm so laid back, I also won't like shy away from it. So it's like, hey, a week from now, you want to go to a camp in Pennsylvania when you're in like between 7th and 8th grade? I'm like, sure, I'll go. It's like, let's go. Who cares, right? But it's a double-edged sword for sure. I don't know. It's hard to explain, right? Like kind of talking about yourself is always weird.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it's kind of like it's good sometimes because I think when you put out like your own personal philosophy or ideas and, it kind of gets challenged, you have to kind of explain it with words. I feel like it helps you grow. And that's kind of why I'm doing this. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's a good opportunity for me personally to grow. And plus, I like you a little bit. So I do kind of want to know, because I feel like it's going to help me.
Yeah, no, you make me think about it. It's just like, yeah, I am very chill and laid back, but I love competing. So winning's fun, competing's fun. Yeah.
I thought the 20-0 in duels in 2008. I read that on an article. I'm trying to think where exactly I saw that. I'm not very good. Well, if I'm writing a paper, I can cite my sources, but yeah, I'm not going to cite my source right now. But do you remember doing that?
I didn't know that was a thing till right now you said it, but probably. I mean,
Yeah.
I my junior year was actually better than my senior year. I just didn't finish well. But my senior year, it could have been I took most of my losses in tournaments, but or I
I
don't know
think,
what that is because no, I remember losing. I lost maybe it was home duels. I don't know because that's not right. I took a couple losses my senior year in duels.
yeah,
I
that's
lost
got
to
to be
Chad
rough.
Mendez. I lost to Chad Mendez, and
Was
then
that
I
your
lost.
senior year?
Yep, and then I lost to Kellen Russell at national duels in a dual meet, and might have had another loss or two in the Big Ten season. So,
Huh. I think it was from the Minnesota website. So I'll have to send an email and be like, hey,
yeah,
you guys need to get your act together, Minnesota.
yeah. Figure out who that SID is and send them a retract. He has to put out a retraction or whatever it is.
So when you came in Minnesota, like, I mean, I think by the time you got there, you kind of knew what Minnesota was about, right? Like they kind of showed you a little bit like during the recruiting process.
Yeah, they were, coming off of two national titles fairly recently. I think it was 0203 or was it no 0102. They had just won back-to-back national team titles.
Okay.
03, I don't know where they finished in 03, but that's the year I came in and visited was that 03 year. So I forget where they finished, but the 2 years
I
before.
mean, that whole chain, like they were top 5, like almost every year, like contending for a team trophy.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. They were up there for quite a few years. So, I mean, I knew they were good, right? Like I knew it was a great program. I knew it was good wrestling. But I don't know. You're still pretty ignorant as a high school, especially I was. I mean, I think these days these kids know more about college wrestling than they did back in my days. But it was I didn't have the pedigree, right? My family wasn't a generational wrestling family. It was just my brothers and I started wrestling, so we didn't have like that firsthand knowledge. Kind of know what your coaches would tell you about it, and like I knew results, right? I knew Minnesota was good at wrestling, but um, you know, I got there and it was just a whole nother level though, right? Like I guess that's the point I'm making. It's like I knew they were good, but I didn't really know what I was getting into.
Yeah.
I didn't realize like how far apart the high school to college wrestling was at that time. So
I mean, what's always kind of like impressed me about Minnesota is not just like the wrestling itself, but just like the team culture. It just seems like it's so inclusive, and it just seems like guys are so aware of the impact that their actions really have on the team. And and that's just from an outsider looking in. I feel like I've done some homework, but you feel like when you were a freshman, you came in, were there older guys or coaches or like like I said, the expectations of the program? Did you kind of feel like that was the case?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the expectation was to win a national championship. Like that was it, right? So it's like even if like I knew it, even when I got there, like it would still like stick out to me like how important certain like little things were to accomplish that, right? Like that's maybe what I didn't have. Yeah, we're supposed to be really good and win national titles, but it's like I remember just little things that stick out to me even now. It's like Jay hated when guys would let guys off their back in practice. Like he'd get pissed off about that almost as much as anything else I remember. But like, for him, a pin is a difference between being first and third, first and second, and he knows that, right? Being so
Yeah.
close so many times and winning a couple by small margins, it's like these guys like never let a guy off his back ever, and he'd get so pissed off. And I remember being like he's been killing that guy all practice. Who cares if he lets him off his back? It's what I would think, right? But you kind of realize why it was so important to him, and that was the standard, right? It's the difference of being a national championship team or not. Maybe one pin.
Yeah. I don't mean to rag on you a little bit, but I'm pretty sure you told us at practice, let guys off their back. Like we need to wrestle more. But again,
Yeah, but
we
that's
also needed to wrestle more, like
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, and it is what it is, right? Like we needed to get better at different things than getting a pin, right? At the NCAAs, we needed to develop quite a few more things. So
yeah. What would you say like were some of the biggest challenges that you had, as a coach at Cal State Bakersfield? Just in terms of just all that, like from recruiting to like developing culture, wrestling talent.
well, I think the thing I wish I had more of is just more people there around all the time. It's always a pretty thin staff. Um, hard to keep guys because we couldn't pay them much. So I wish I could have like a couple more coaches that were there all day, morning practice, afternoon practice. I wish they could have had them certain guys longer, right? Had some consistency there in the staff. But I felt like actually, I felt like that was that your senior year when it was me, Luke, and Hanky.
Dude, that was a fun staff. And I think it was super well rounded too.
I thought that was a great staff. Honestly, I thought it's one of the best group of guys I ever worked with. Not that I honestly really loved working with those guys, enjoyed them, but I thought they were great coaches. I think Luke's a great coach. I think Hanky's a great coach. And then we had Efren, who was at the time his schedule allowed him to come in a bunch. I mean, I thought that was an awesome staff. And it showed. I think you guys got so much better that year, more than any other year I was there.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, Luke's a head coach right now, and Hanky's a head coach right now too.
Was it 2 years we were all together? No, I don't even remember.
I think it was 2 years. So it was it was my last year. It was 18-19, and then 19-20, and then COVID happened, and then that's when Hanky left and you left.
So so those 2 years and us being even like that short amount of time, it kind of like we had enough time to where we were really getting the ball rolling. And everyone was really like contributing in a unique way, but almost right in the same direction. We never felt like we were pulling in opposite directions as a staff. It was pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, it was fun. I really liked. I think your kind of laid backness. I think and being not necessarily like super hands on, which I think most of the guys that were with Mendoza and Orozco, they were very hands on, like on everything. Like our living situation and like, just everything. And I think that transition, initially was tough because guys were so used to that. And now it's like, I don't want to say almost the opposite end of the spectrum, but I just felt like, we had so much freedom. But for me, I actually think it was good. I had those 2 years under them because now I was like, I think a little bit more mature. And if I had questions, I wasn't afraid to walk past their door. Those 2 years before, dude, sometimes I'd go around because I didn't want to walk by the door. I don't know. I have a good relationship with those guys, but I don't know. I think those 2 years, and then when Hanky came in and he was kind of a little bit of that, kind of on the guys a little bit more, which as I think the younger assistant, sometimes usually that's kind of the role. I think just all three of you guys, I think it was a great mix. I wish I got to wrestle under you three for a little bit longer, but that's just kind of how it is sometimes. But
I mean. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, and it all kind of happened like that staff kind of got put together kind of randomly. But yeah, I wish it's like if we could have been together more time, it could have been. I thought we could have really developed a lot of guys and really got the ball rolling. It was a fun staff. I know Luke came over because Eastern Michigan lost their program, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think he would have ever made his way out west. Same with Hanky. Hanky, I think, just kind of got tired of the grind at American. And, being in DC, I think that was just like a tough, like day to day for him. He told me about, having the right to train for 45 minutes to get to campus, right? Kind of sucks. If you miss the train, it turns into, an hour or so. So anyway, I think Bakersfield was a lot better pace as far as just city and all that was a lot more manageable. So kind of got him just through that and ended up being great. Those were a couple fun years.
Yeah. Yeah, man. What do you miss the most about being here?
Well, I miss coaching for sure. I mean, I
Yeah.
miss, I don't know. I mean, you could probably always tell, like, I really enjoyed being around the guys, being around the team. Um, I don't know, I always joked I was kind of like the soft guy on the staff. I like getting to know you guys and really building relationship with you guys. And those guys did too, right? I'm not saying they didn't, but for me, it was just a lot easier, or maybe easier for you
Yeah.
guys to come to me, right? Because
Well, I feel like when you were getting interviewed, one of the things that I want to say was maybe Karen Langston was talking about is like you're a player's coach, like you're just very approachable, and I think I think having that balance where you have somebody that you can kind of talk to and be open about and ask life questions, particularly like I think there's definitely a time to be professional, but if we're on the road, like let's talk about life a little bit because it's like we're not in high school, like we're older and we're trying to figure things out. I just think it's rare that it's a head coach that's doing it. You know what
no,
I mean?
Jay was a lot like that.
I know he was. Yeah.
Jay was like, he was an open book. It's like he would talk about anything, right? And he'd talk about a lot of things. And sometimes you were just like, this is probably important, but it's like, all right, Jay, you kind of, I wish I didn't tune him out as much as I did, but I was still young and just be like, I don't need to listen to this. Like, you're trying to tell me how to save money and all this stuff. I was like, I don't care, man. I'm just trying to make weight this week. We don't need to talk about saving money at the airport, but it was right. It was like, you're talking about all these other things. And Jay was like that. And so to me, it never seemed like anything special. I was just used to it. Right.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
but I don't know. Yeah. I wish I was around him a little bit more. I like when I did the J Rob, I did it for the whole summer. And like the first camp, like I was kind of like afraid to approach him a little bit just because like, he's a big name and he's done so much. And then I don't know, he said something. I was helping move boxes or something. And like he randomly just said he loved me. And I'm like, what? He's like, I love you. Cause I grabbed like an extra box or something. I'm like, all right, either he's messing with me or he's just old or something. But like I'm here, I might as well like just try to have a conversation. And I just made it a mission, like, all right, I'm just gonna try to talk to him about something every day. And I think I just did that enough to where, kind of remember my name a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. He's just, I mean, that's probably my biggest disappointment about the camps being done is like I don't get to go and like interact with them.
Yeah. No, he's the man. He was just really good at having that balance, right? Like he could talk to you about like something that's completely unrelated to wrestling, or he could chew your ass about something about wrestling, right? And once he chewed your ass, he'd kind of drop it too. He didn't like stay on you about it where it's like you kind of were resentful. It was just kind of like, yeah, I screwed up. That is on me. He's right. It always seemed like he put it in a way where like you could realize like, yeah, that's on me. He's right. Like he's pissed for a reason because he's normally a pretty reasonable guy. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't want me to put you on blast, but do you remember like a moment where you kind of chewed your ass out a little bit?
yeah, for sure. Um, we went to, I probably told this story before, but we went and wrestled out at Lock Haven at the Matt Town Open. We bust from Minnesota. It took forever. And it's actually the last time I ever wrestled 133. And like the cut sucked. And that was like, reality is I was just feeling too sorry for myself. But
What
anyway,
year
I
were you?
go. It was my freshman year, redshirt freshman. So after I redshirted. But anyway, I go 0-2. I lose my first match. Some little kid was decent. And then my second match, kid I should have crushed, and I was beaten. Like I think, I was beating them all match. Had like 3 takedowns, maybe 4 even. I don't remember. But third period, I chose down, and he threw the legs in, and he turned me a couple times to beat me. And I remember getting off the mat and just like feeling really sorry for myself. And I was just like, it's like, oh man, weight cutting sucks. I go 0-2 at the stupid tournament. Oh man. And like, I'm walking off the mat and like I'm sitting in the hallway or wherever the hell I'm sitting. And I see Jay walking over towards me, and I was like, I was seriously expecting him to just be like comforting, like, it's okay, something like that. And he just walks on and he goes, "That's what you fucking get." He told me. And I was like, "What?" He goes, "I fucking told you to work on getting out of legs. I told you to work on it all summer. You didn't do it." And I was just like, "Oh shit."
Dude,
And
that's
I was like,
gnarly.
"He did tell me." And I remember like after like, it obviously hurt my ego and it sucked. But after I was like, he did tell me and I didn't work on it. That is my fault. It took a while, but he was right.
Yeah. Yeah, you told me that story before, but I couldn't remember like the context. And I didn't want to say like, "Can you tell me the story when he tell you that's what you fucking
Really,
get."
I remember just feeling sorry for myself and just wanting someone to come comfort me. I saw him coming and I was like, "Oh yeah, he's probably gonna say it's all right." And he just lit me up and I was like, "Fuck." But he was right. He's like 100% right about it.
Yeah. I feel like he's just got like so much wisdom, and like I think about like because I know him and Gable coach together. I know Gable's known for so much about like really getting to know his guys and like the psychology of wrestling. I feel like Jay's got that same thing where I feel like he really just gets to know you. And maybe it's outside of like a wrestling environment, like traveling or at the airport, in the van, whatever, where he's just talking to you about these other things. They actually kind of gets to know you and he knows how to talk to you.
Yeah. No, he was great. I think one of the things he put a lot of emphasis and a lot of pressure on training, practicing. Like he took that really serious. He can get on you, but leading up to competition, I think for the most part, he did as much as he could to like almost distract you from like if there was any pressure there or take pressure off. He never seemed to like build pressure onto like competition, which I always thought was great. Like I don't think most guys need that. Maybe some guys need like a slap in the face or whatever, but I never felt like he was building it up more than it needed to be. It was always just like, yeah, we're gonna go and we got work to do and we've prepared, so everyone should be feeling good and confident about going into this, right? It wasn't I don't know. It was just always seemed a little more laid back than I expected on that end. The training was always super intense and he was really good at making keeping you accountable and you were on time, and if you weren't on time he'd kick you out of practice and all these things, and there was no missing practice. But as soon as it came to like competing, he was always pretty chill, to be honest, which was good in my opinion. I thought that was always good for us.
Yeah, that takes a lot, like especially if you've been so close, like getting second to Iowa or like not winning a national title, like to not put more pressure on yourself. Because you were a part of that team in 06 where you guys got second,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in that next year, was there not like a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, like coming to practice? Or was it something that you guys felt like you were worried about? Or did Jay just kind of do enough, or the guys on the team do enough to kind of distract you from that?
So I'm trying to think like I don't know. That year we took second in 06. I think we all really thought we could win, but in hindsight, man, Oklahoma State won that year. They had a great team. I don't know. We were probably, we were for sure at best we would have probably been a close second. We were a distant second. We beat them in 2 duels. We matched up to them with them great in dual meets, so we beat them twice in dual meets. But it's like you kind of see Penn State now, like they might have some close duels or might have even dropped a duel here and there years they've won it, but once it comes to tournament time, they just pull away from everyone, and that's what that Oklahoma State team was. They just had like who was on it? They had Hendricks,
Mako, Esposito was there, right?
yeah, Johnny Hendricks, Esposito,
Or
Mako,
Rochelle, one of the Rochells.
probably Rolschalt. I don't. I hope I'm not mixing up teams, but their lightweights were good. I'm sure they already had Coleman Scott, Nathan Morgan.
Yeah, that's a pretty good team.
And like we managed to beat them twice in dual meets, right? So it was just like.
Did you beat them twice that year?
that year. Yeah, we
So
we
you
beat them
had
in two.
what, like national duels and like a duel lined up?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Damn.
So we thought we could beat them because we beat them twice in dual meets. And the first meet we beat them that year was in national duels, and we broke their win streak. That was like a crazy, like, they were undefeated for like 2-3 years in duels.
That's
So
gnarly.
we broke their win streak, and we're like, okay, like, we can beat these guys. We beat them again later in the year, but like, I don't know. That's you being a competitor thinking you can beat everyone, but in hindsight, it's like, man, they had a stacked team.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like, I mean, national duels, I remember when I was younger, when I was in high school, I used to watch national duels, and it was like the best because you'd get sometimes teams that wouldn't normally wrestle each other that would wrestle each other. And I mean, when was the last time they had national duels? Was it like 2016 for Division One? It was it was a while ago. And I don't
Yeah,
even think, yeah, I don't even think it was like a true national duels. I think it was like they just try to pull a team from like, from each conference and try to pair them up.
yep. So they changed the format somewhere along the way. I don't remember what year, but those old, well, national duels when I was competing, when they were at UNI, those were fun. And you would wrestle some teams you wouldn't see, and a lot of teams were trying to participate. And you get most, if not all, the best teams there to wrestle, and it was fun. I mean, dual meets always seem to bring out a little more intensity out of the bench than a tournament. So they were always great competition, and I know Jay really liked preparing for those. We'd always train pretty hard to get up to national duels, and yeah, we always wrestled fairly well there. But and then yeah, you're right. So then what happened? So then they tweaked it. I think they might have done like regionals, and then they tried doing in like they were trying to copy something like football, like with bowl games. So they tried
Yeah.
matching teams up, like it would be like different bowl games. That was kind of the theory behind it. And I don't know. I don't think anything ever really was as good or entertaining as um, the old national duels at UNI when they had because they used to run all the divisions together too. So they used to do D1, D2, D3. Pretty sure they did like NAIA. They were all running their national duels at the same time. So it was always like a weekend pack full of pretty good wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the bowl game idea is good in the sense that, you can kind of pair teams up again that would normally wrestle each other and make it more like a fan thing. Let's get Minnesota and Oklahoma State to wrestle each other in a duel. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like teams have gone away from it. I don't know. I just feel like, people are just competing less during the college season. And do you feel like maybe that has something to do with why it's kind of dropped off? It's just like, what's the value in going and wrestling this team at the duel if we're trying to win a national title at the end of the year?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people are competing less. I don't know exactly why, where that evolved. It did happen somewhat in the last maybe like 7 to maybe within the last 10 years, somewhere along the way. But um, I think a part of that was just like the qualifying system they use now. Before,
Yeah.
then it was different system, so it didn't matter if you took losses. Now your losses matter a lot more. It really was like you show up to conference and you have a good weekend. It didn't matter if you had a losing record. Now if you take some losses, it's kind of tough to qualify if you're like a 25 to 30 guy, right, in the rankings. So people probably wrestling less because of that. But I don't know. It was, I don't know. I always thought it was just worth my experience. It was worth competing those things, and those, you get four normally really good matches. It was very few easy matches at national duels.
Yeah, I think with high school, it's good. When we want to get as many matches as we can, because I think I think our room's getting tougher. But I know for me, when I was in high school, I think my team at its most had six guys. I think my junior and senior year of high school. And so it's like when I would go and get these matches, it was for me to get like practice, like I got like some tougher guys I got to kind of practice against. And I think for high school, I think there's still a big value in that and trying to get matches, but it's also the right kind of matches too. I don't know. You coached a little bit of high school, didn't you? When you were a grad assistant at Minnesota?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always even when I was wrestling, like I'd coach like a freestyle club in the spring. So it was mostly high schoolers, maybe some youth kids. But yeah, I've always kind of helped coach high school or even youth clubs throughout, basically up until I was a head coach. I did a lot of that. Even when I was an assistant, whatever it was, I did camps or whatever. But yeah. But yeah, what you're probably saying is high school for sure, more matches, more mat time. Right?
Yeah.
College, you're thinking a little less might make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it kind of depends on the guy for sure, but it's just by the time you get, you're especially now where I think maybe the level of wrestling is increased at a younger age. Like, Reno Worlds I feel like it's always been a big deal, but I don't know. I just feel like the last couple of years, there's just huge numbers at, these big national tournaments. I mean, COVID kind of put a damper on it, but these kids tournaments like Tulsa and, Reno and, RMN's got a lot of big events in the West, but, it's like you have these kids that are, 6, 7, 8 years old that are going off and wrestling at these big national tournaments, and they're getting like 5 or 6 matches. Like that's kind of nuts to think about. But I think when you're wrestling, at that kind of intensity at that age, it's hard to do that all the way up until you're 20, 21, 22. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's good. I think what really matters is Reno Worlds when you're 8 years old. That's when you really should be doing the most of your wrestling.
I had this moment. This was.
I'm glad you picked up. I was joking, but
dude, here's the thing that I get frustrated with. So I'm coaching kids. I coach kids too, right? And our thing is always like trying to develop and like making sure kids are trying to wrestle the right way. But it's so hard to balance that because it's like we had a kid this last weekend wrestle. He got first year before at this tournament, and I think he's the older of this age group, and he's just getting single leg, and he gets 3 takedowns. And the kid he's wrestling is another kid from our club, and the kid freaking throws him for 4, and then he gets kind of like a wrist trap, but like almost like a twister at the same time. So like he goes underhook, and when he grabs the hand on the elbow and rolls him through, and he got that, and now he's winning by criteria. So I feel bad. I like the way that our other kids wrestling because I like big moves, and I like that jump style. But as a coach, it's like, dude, don't feel so bad. Like you got 3 takedowns, like that's still good. Yeah. You got 3 really good single legs, and he's just like all like depressed because he didn't win the trophy. So there's that. And then I remember I did a SE Way State, and we had a kid in the finals, and he's 6, and they're like 1-minute periods, and he's winning. He's winning. He got a reversal. The kid took him down. He got a reversal, got a cradle, put the kid in his back. Time expired. Now he's winning by like 2 or 3. So it's our choice. And the dad like wants him to go top, and I'm like, dude, we just got out. Let's go down. And the kid's like kind of looking at his dad, and he looks at me, and he's just like down. He gets cradled and put to his back and pinned. And I'm like, and he starts crying. The dad's mad at me, and I'm like, what? there's no winning that situation, like, I don't know. I've been trying to wrap my head around it.
For sure, right? And it's like, well, you doubted the position, right? You doubted going down, and so you were hesitant, and you you were just confident, you probably would have not got cradled. I don't know if you would have got away, but you probably wouldn't have got cradled and pinned.
So you just scored. You just got a reversal,
Sure.
and then got a cradle of your own. I don't know, but it's hard because they're 6.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like I want them to win, but I also want them to wrestle correctly, and I want them to be happy and love the sport and keep wrestling. But
Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to do all those things at the same time.
no, absolutely. You gotta make sure they keep coming back and like coming back. If not, what's the point?
Yeah, I feel like that's the big thing, right? Is just trying to get kids to buy in, and especially I think at high school level, like getting parents to buy in too is a big deal too. I don't know, when you were coaching in college, like, I feel like with your demeanor, like I felt like I bought in just because that's who I am. Maybe I didn't necessarily, maybe I don't know, from your perspective, maybe I didn't buy in on everything, but I don't know. I try to really like listen to what you're saying. For maybe some of those kids that are maybe more resistant, I mean, how do you kind of reach them and connect them and get them to buy in, to what you're trying to do and what maybe your philosophy is?
Well, I guess it depends like what we're talking about, right? Like if we're talking about buy-in effort, buy-in style of wrestling, buy-in, attitude, it's all a little different, right? Like, I think for the most part, college guys, you're going to get effort out of them. And it's just like, it's almost a bare minimum of being in a college room, right? Or being on a college team. It's like, we're going to have practice in the morning. We're going to do some hard, difficult things where you're going to have some older guys who want to pound you into the mat all day. So it's like the effort part, I think, is 9 times out of 10 going to be there. And if it's not, those guys normally don't make it too long anyway. I think it's the attitude is part of the buy-in in college is, getting guys to make sure they have the right attitude when they're putting that effort in. That's for sure tough. And then style, it's like, yeah, there's certain things you want guys to do, but I felt pretty comfortable letting guys kind of have their own style. There's for sure certain things I wanted guys to do, but I wasn't too like, hey, you have to only do these things. It's like, it's wrestling for a reason. You can win in a lot of different ways. So I wasn't trying to narrow things down for guys, but so circling back to getting guys to buy in with attitude, it's a lot of it's accountability, right? Holding guys accountable, calling them out, being honest, right? Sometimes it's like being honest with guys, and sometimes you gotta be like, and you remember we used to do these meetings at the end of the season. You're like, here's how you did. You were 500, below 500. You were, whatever. Maybe you had a great season. It's like normally it's the guys who struggled, didn't have a great attitude. And they're like, well, isn't it obvious, that they correlate? It's like I've been telling you, you haven't been listening, and I think you got to be pretty calculated, right? You got to let guys know you still believe they can win, but you got to let them know why they're not there yet, right? And I always really was a big believer. If I recruited a guy, I thought they could win. I thought they could be a pretty damn good wrestler. So I could always tell guys like, well, hey, I recruited you because I think you can win. We're just not seeing it. And I'm telling you, we're not seeing it because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, we got to start working on these things. It's like, we're never going to get there if you don't start working on showing up with a good positive attitude. You don't start doing the little things right. And you kind of chip away at them. For sure, there's some guys that kind of takes a little bit longer. Some guys, you address it a couple times and they fix them, and then they start seeing a little more success right away. And then, they kind of get on cruise control. But, it's a part of working with athletes. Just got to chip away at them.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little more stubborn. I probably should have been.
Yeah, no, you were good. Your effort was always great, right? Like you were great. Your attitude was always great.
It wasn't. Go ahead.
No, I think you always had a different in your head, a different way that you were going to win than what maybe I thought was your best way to win matches. Is that fair?
Yeah. I think I told you about this, but I think it was like I think it had to have been like one of my first tournaments, like after I was done competing. And I'd kind of been working with them a little bit during when I was competing. But then once our season was done, it's like, all right, now I gotta start coaching freestyle. And dude, our kid, one of our kids would just not move his feet. And this kid just kept like locking his hands on his leg. I'm like, you need to freaking get your legs back and you need to sprawl. And then I remember saying that. I was like, sorry, I get it now. But it's hindsight, like I just wanted to scramble. Scrambling was what came, I think, easier to me, but I didn't have those really good fundamentals where, I could sprawl and build into like a crunch position or roll through on a guy or something like that,
Well,
like
I will
I
also
would just try to
say
scramble
that.
all the damn time.
Well, and here's what happens too. Now, I will also say that you would win a lot of times matches and positions because of your scrambling, right? So what I think you probably were never ever you didn't have enough time to bridge the gap of like the fundamentals into the scrambling or using them back and forth to maximize each other.
I
You
had
just
5 years,
wanted to
man.
win.
I had 5 years.
Right?
I couldn't figure it out.
But it's like, you know what I
It's
mean? But
okay.
it's like you won a lot of matches because of it, right? I think you could have won more matches if you stayed more basic and fundamental along the way too. Maybe some matches got away from you because of that, but that's part of learning.
I'm not too burnt about it because I think I'm better as a coach because I've kind of grown to understand that, and it's weird. I don't coach like my style at all. Like we have one kid on our team that can he's real long and lanky. It doesn't necessarily have a super strong core. So he kind of can get in these really like scrambling positions. And now it's like, dude, there's actually somebody I can, kind of show some funkiness to. But I don't know. I'm not too burnt about that. I think for me, like what I was maybe stubborn about buying in and just being consistent with the other stuff, like I wouldn't say I necessarily had a bad diet, but like there were some times where I wouldn't go to bed, early. And, there was never times like during the season while I was doing silly things, but definitely out of season, I was doing, not silly things, but I was just, just doing stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because I think as long as you can balance it, but it's like you only get such a short window to do this competition thing, and then after that it's hard. I don't know, but
Yeah,
it's a hard
I
thing.
think, and you realize as you get further away from that time you compete, it's like every sacrifice you make while you compete is totally worth it. And even, I think a lot of people sacrifice as much as they could and were as disciplined as they could, but you always can look back and be like, I could have done more of this, and even like been a little more disciplined here and there, and like you kind of wish you would have, right? And it's all hindsight, like you said. It's I wish I'd done some things differently, and even like actually going back to the scrambling, because I started thinking as you're saying, it's like, well, I was actually on the other side, and it was kind of like a newer style that was coming in at the time, but I wish I would have scrambled more. It probably would have helped me. I was still of the attitude where it's like, that's junk wrestling, that's not going to work all the time, where it does work. I just didn't put any time into learning it, or even applying it at the right time, where if I would have, it would have made me a better wrestler.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We don't need to talk about any of your losses because I think Stephen Monk came.
To be honest,
I don't know, dude. I remember Stephen Monk came to visit, and we were at that car fundraiser, and we were all hanging out. He comes up to me because I kind of like, I don't know, I kind of standoffish if you're kind of like famous, and then I'll kind of slowly start talking to you. But we had talked a little bit. I rolled around with him at one point, and then we were at the fundraiser, and he was there, and he's like, "Hey, like pull up like this video of Manny wrestling Chad Mendez." So like I was trying to pull it up, and eventually I found it, and we watched it, and I got like a couple guys, and we were looking over my shoulder watching it, and I remember I went up and showed you, and you're like, "Oh, why you guys show me that right now?" And you got kind of mad, and I was like, "All right, yeah, that was a bad idea."
Well, maybe it was because it was at the car fundraiser. If you just were like in the wrestling room in the office, I'd probably been like, yeah, whatever. I wouldn't care. But I was like, man, I don't want to watch that right now. Worried about keeping track of all these stupid tickets and all this other stuff. And,
Have you watched any of his bare knuckle boxing stuff?
I haven't watched any bare knuckle boxing
Dude,
at all.
so he did a couple fights and dude, it's like intense. Like these guys are like in a phone booth and they're just going just like straight bare knuckle. Like I think they have tape
Yeah,
and
they're
they're
probably
just
taped
freaking just
up.
beating the
Yeah.
crap out of each other, which is gnarly. But I mean, you haven't seen bare knuckle, but just fighting in general, is that anything you ever thought about doing? Because I think you were done 2008. I mean, I don't know. Like when you were coaching, you were still
Yeah.
wrestling a lot.
So yeah, briefly, I never really like pursued it, but briefly, that's so if you're familiar with Marty Morgan, he was our
Mhm.
assistant coach, and then he ended up training Brock Lesnar and Cole Conrad through their MMA careers. And actually, Jacob Volkman, I don't know if you know Volkman, but he fought in the
Sounds
UFC a couple
familiar.
fights, and he was a Minnesota guy too.
Logan Storley's fighting too, right?
Yep, he's fighting now too. But Marty was helping those guys train through their UFC careers and their MMA careers, and that's as I was graduating, and they trained out of I think they changed the name, but it was the Minnesota Mixed Martial Arts Academy out of here in the Twin Cities, and I went and rolled around a couple times, and had an opportunity to really pursue it if I wanted to, and I just kind of was like, man, I don't know. I was still a little skeptical about it. Kind of stayed with wrestling. Where I was like, maybe I'll try my hand at some freestyle. And then even after that, then I was like, I'll just go into coaching. I always kind of saw myself going into coaching. So just didn't do it, right? Looks like it would have been fun. I don't know.
I don't know. You heard that story where I got punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I actually was thinking about doing
I
MMA
saw the
for a little
video.
bit.
I saw the video, right?
I don't have the. I don't know if you saw the. I don't have the
I saw the
video.
video.
It must have been somebody on the
Hey,
team.
what if I pulled up that video right now? I was like, hey.
You don't have the video. We don't need to put that on here. But if you have
Well,
it, you can send me to it. I
I'm
wouldn't
just saying,
mind
like
seeing it
when you brought up the video of me getting pinned at the that would be the equivalent.
I don't know if this is I mean, here's the thing, like that was just like me and like a couple of guys on the team, and then I showed you the video. I don't mean to brag, but we have like 4,000 views on one of our videos. I don't think this one will get that many, no offense. But yeah, I don't know. A few hundred people could watch it and be like, here's, people don't want to hear about me getting punched in the face. We don't even got to talk about it anymore. That's fine.
Man.
Yeah. But after I got punched in the face, yeah, I was like, nah, this ain't for me. I don't want to get hit in the face. This is this is a moneymaker, man. I know everybody says that, but I'm for real.
Yeah, that's kind of what the deciding factor was for me too. It's like it'd be pretty fun to like, in theory beat someone up. But I was like, yeah, but what if I just have like a glass jaw and I just get socked once and then it's like I suck? It's like,
Yeah.
What's the point? I could be great and I can't take a punch. I'm gonna lose to everyone.
Well, it's like Tyson has that quote where it's like everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. It's like, dude, everybody thinks they're tough until they get punched in the face. And then it's like, I don't like this at all. I don't want to be here. This sucks.
For sure. I just remember thinking like, yeah, I don't think I want to get hit. It's like,
no. Or yeah, I mean, I feel like most wrestlers like usually can get the takedown. You might eat a couple punches on your way in, or if you're Ben Askren, a knee. But and once you get somebody on the ground, it's like, okay, well now it's just don't get choked out. For the most part.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, right? Like I never thought it seems that way, but it's like I don't know what's how difficult is it getting a takedown without getting knocked out
against a super high level guy. I don't know. I feel like the word's kind of out. I think about wrestling. I think finding ways to maybe stay. I don't know if staying in the middle of the cage would be ideal. Maybe going up against the fence so you kind of put your back up against it. I don't know.
Yeah,
But wrestling and MMA is a little bit different.
it's definitely a different dynamic, and it depends who you're fighting, right? Like, the guy's kind of dangerous jujitsu guy. Maybe you don't want to take him down. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you said you're always thinking about coaching, was that something I feel like you weren't necessarily always thinking about coaching? It seems like somebody just asked if you wanted to coach and you're like, yeah, I'll do that. Like how'd you get into coaching?
Yeah, that was a part of it. But I always kind of knew, like, no matter what I did, I'd always like stay involved. So like if I was working, like, even now, like right now I'm working like a desk job, I still try to help out at the local high school here, the youth club, freestyle club, whatever, because I just love being around wrestling, right? Like, I love wrestling. So I just always knew I'd be involved as a coach in some capacity, even if it was minimal. But when I had an opportunity to do it full time, I was like, oh, absolutely. Yeah. I just ran with it. So
You just kept doing it. So you were a grad assistant at Minnesota for, was it 2 years?
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when who's the coach at Virginia? Is he the same guy?
Yeah, Steve Garland. Yep.
Okay.
Steve.
So what was the process of that? Like, were you trying to like stay in Minnesota, or was that something, this opportunity came up and you kind of just, yeah, I'll go do that?
Well, this one I was already looking at other places to go coach. And then this one came up after I was already kind of in the process of looking at other schools to go coach at. So I looked at UNI right when Doug took over there. I was actually going to, the plan was I was going to go there and be, I might have been volunteer or a grad assistant for them at the time. And then Jay, then like he was kind of reaching out to other coaches who he knew had openings. And then the next one that came up was Virginia Tech. So I almost went to Tech with Dresser to be their, I think it would have been their volunteer position. And then somewhere along the way, Garland, he must have found out I was kind of looking for some coaching opportunities, and they reached out, and I ended up going out there. But yeah, so. And actually, Bakersfield was one.
Really? This was what year was this? 2010?
Yeah, so Mendoza was trying to get me back to Bakersfield to be an assistant with them.
Really? I don't think I knew that.
Yep.
Huh. So you were at Virginia for, was it 3 years or 2 years?
Just one.
Just 1 year. So you're at Virginia, and then was that when Kish got the job at North Dakota?
Yeah, and then I went with Kish for 5 years before I went to Bakersfield.
Yeah. And then when the CSUB job opened up, I mean, obviously you applied. I think you told me though you weren't, I don't know, you were maybe as serious about possibly taking the job.
I didn't apply right away.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, I'm okay. I knew it was just like, a lot of fundraising, so it's pretty tough place to manage the workload. Just, there's a whole nother component to it. And my old AD at NDSU, Gene Taylor, knew Karen. So Gene was the one that talked to me. I was like, hey, you should really take a look at it. What's the harm? You don't like it, you're not interested, you don't need to take it, but could be a good fit for you. You don't know until you check it out. So he kind of talked me into looking into it more. So yeah.
When you apply to these different places as an assistant, is that like how do you talk to like Kish? Like, he's your boy, right? Like, how do you have that kind of
that was way
conversation with him?
different. Yeah, that was way different than anywhere else, right? Like, we were good friends from college. We were same class, wrestled same team. So when he got hired, he called me right away. And he's like, hey, I need an assistant. What do you think? And I was like, yep, let's go. We're friends. So it's like, get to coach with my friend from college. It's like, yeah, let's do it. See ya. That's why I was only at Virginia 1 year, right? I probably would have stayed a little bit longer, but once he got hired, and he told me, he called me before, and he's like, yeah, I'm applying for this job. I'm one of the finalists. I think I might get it. And I was like, all right, well, it's not, we don't need to get into it too far until you actually get it, right? And there's no point. And then he got it, and I was like, all right, yep, I'm in. Let's go. So,
yeah.
And then the other ones were a little more professional than that.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question was like, like talking to Kish and like, hey, I'm gonna go to Bakersfield. I'm gonna apply there. Like, what was that like?
Oh, he was supportive. He knew.
Yeah.
I told him right away. And he goes, yeah, let me know what you need. I can give him a call, put a good word in, whatever. But
yeah, I feel like it's kind of like a bittersweet thing. It's like, you guys are friends, and obviously, like you have a lot of utility and value in the program that he's at, but it's like he also, he wants the best for you too. So I feel like that's kind of like possibly a hard conversation, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it went over well, but
yeah, no,
what do you think? Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. So I will say this: it wasn't easy to leave NDSU. I really loved being there, but at the same time, it's like I kind of knew it's like, okay, well, the next step in my coaching career is to be a head coach, and here's an opportunity, right? And knowing they're so limited at the D1 level, it's like, well, I really thought like, yeah, this is something I really got to do, and give myself that opportunity to be a head coach at a pretty elite level. So. It wasn't easy to leave there, but yeah, I mean, I loved it there. I was just up there a couple of weeks ago, up in Fargo visiting some friends, made some good friends. I think NDSU is a great school, great athletic department, super supportive of all their sports. It's a great community that supports their sports. So it's easy to like being there as someone who's in the athletic department. But what about Kish going to Oklahoma? What'd you think about that, Brian?
I was pretty excited about it. I thought he's been doing a really good job at North Dakota State. I think he's shown that he can develop guys, I think, and pull together a good staff. And then I think with that budget and that history, I honestly think he could do really well. And kind of to tie into that, the stuff in the transfer portal, I think Franix, is he in the portal yet?
Yeah, I saw that.
I think Pat Menino posted something on Twitter saying he's going to be in the portal, but
I saw it on social media, so I don't know if he's actually in the portal. Sounds like he is. I don't know. I don't look at the portal. I don't even think I have access to it. But
I think there's a couple guys. There's
Caliendo.
Caliendo,
and he's a stud too. Him and Frantic. So if they wind up at Oklahoma with him, I mean, that's 2 All-Americans.
Nice little start.
Yeah. So could be, but it's crazy. You don't. I mean, it's hard to say what's happening right now. I don't even know like how much of the stuff I read on social media is actually accurate or not, but there's words of so much money being thrown at these guys. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's somewhere in the middle, but it sounds like it's a crazy time.
I mean, well, here's the thing. Like, I feel like this conversation has been had like, oh, well, it's good for the athletes, but it's bad for the coaches, or it's bad for, the teams. And I agree with that. Like, I feel like, to an extent too, I think long-term, it could be potentially bad for the athletes too. It's like now, you're making decisions based on money, and, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in itself. But, if you go back to when I'm 19, 20 years old, and, I just had a lot of success on the mat. Now you're going to throw $100K at me to go to another school. I don't know. I mean, I like to think I'm a pretty loyal guy, but $100,000 in my bank account sounds pretty sweet when you're 20 years old and you're eating top ramen, like it sounds pretty nice, but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and I guess that's the thing, like that for sure sounds nice, and it would be very appealing to anyone, right? But it's what I don't know, and I would love to know, and I don't know if I ever find out. I won't probably call any coaches I know, but like how much is being offered? How accurate is it? What I'm reading on social media, is it 100K? Is it 50K? Is it 10K? Does it, who
Yeah.
knows, right? Like, I don't know that. And I'm very curious to, I've been out for a few years. So that's such a different landscape, even than my last year I coached.
So I got the lowdown in a couple situations, just because it's like, I still talk to some college coaches every now and then, even just guys on the podcast, just getting to know them a little bit. I'm not going to reveal my sources too much, but I know with Bernie, Truax, the situation was, I think he initially got offered 250K by Iowa. And then I heard Iowa State flew out there and raised it. And then Iowa countered it. And then Penn State called them and was basically like, we're going to give you full ride and then some. Like basically just a full ride with like, and then we'll probably give you something else. Just like buy the book, like that's it. And he's going to Penn State. So I don't know. I think that the number that I hear a lot is like 100K for an All-American, but like it's supposed to be name, image, and likeness. But very rarely do you actually see, or from what I've seen so far, is like you don't really see like their name, image, and likeness being used like in how it's supposed to.
Yeah, well, and I don't know the rules either, right? Like, I think there's rules to it on how involved coaches can be or not be or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what those exactly are, but yeah,
It
so
can't.
it's like,
Yeah.
so like in theory, it's supposed to be like a company is going to give Brian Batista, 100K to do Mazda commercials from Mazda of Bakersfield. Here's 100K if you do commercials for us and you're a wrestler at Cal State Bakersfield, right? I think that's how it's supposed to be. I don't know if that's how it's working. I don't know if that's what the rules are supposed to limit it to, but it doesn't sound like it, right? It sounds like coaches are pretty heavily involved in this process.
Yeah, I think to an extent. I'm not sure if how direct they are. I mean, it might be like a phone call or it might be something like that. If anything, but I mean, I don't know. You gotta be silly if that is the actual rule. I don't even know, to be honest. I'm pretty sure it's
I
like
don't know
that.
either.
I haven't read anything. I think I know. I don't know if I can talk about this. Never mind. Here's the thing, dude. Feel like I got so much juice sometimes, and like I can't. I don't want to say it on recording, but yeah, maybe I can talk about it after.
Okay.
We can
And then
talk
I'll
about
say
it
that you told me on my social media.
Yeah, if you don't have any proof though, you can say I told you
Exactly.
anything.
Yeah, you can deny it all you want. There you go. Win-win.
I'll report it as like harassment or
Sure.
what's libel.
Just
Report it as
just
libel.
just reply that I'm clout chasing and just want likes, and that's all it takes to discredit me.
Do you have? I mean, you have an Instagram. Do you have a Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the same Twitter that you had when you were coaching?
Yep.
Yeah. Is it Manny 20? It's not Manny 26, is it?
I couldn't tell you what it is. I
No.
don't think
That's
I've
just
posted in a
that's
long
just your
time.
Zoom account.
No. Manny, what is it? 23?
Manny 26.
What is that from? That might have been my old.
That's your Zoom. It's right there.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out where that came. I think that might have been from CSUB stuff or something. But crazy times as far as college recruiting and kids getting paid and even social media. I mean, I don't know. It's all kind of crazy. I mean,
Yeah. How would you think you would be able to, I don't want to say handle, but like manage all that stuff if you were going back to your
would
time?
try to, but I would honestly, I'd fucking hate it. I hate like social media. I always hated like posting stuff. Like, I don't know. It's not like my personality. It's like, and now it's like you kind of got to do it more. And recruiting was already pretty tough, but now it's like you're recruiting and you're supposed to offer money that we didn't have at Bakersfield. So it was like, yeah, I don't know. I think I would have hated it. I remember the new thing was like all the social media, like, it's like you got to do all the shameless self-promotion of your program. It's like almost like an obligation. And I just always thought that was really stupid. I know there's benefits to it. I just thought it was always really stupid. And I did it and I did it. I probably wasn't great at it because I didn't like doing it, but I knew to a certain degree I had to do it and just create some more visibility for our wrestling team. But I just always hated that aspect of it. And now it's like some more stuff that I probably would have hated doing.
I mean, it's hard just because I feel like if you're not being genuine, I feel like for most people, and maybe I can just speak for you and me, like it's just, I don't know, it feels like you're being dishonest almost, it's like you're trying to create this portrayal of something that's not real. Which I did recently, and I felt like, I don't know, I was just out and about, but I started doing this thing. I'm a brand ambassador for this wrestling apparel, and shout out Vantage Wrestling. But I
What
you know
embassy?
I
What
made a
embassy?
post.
What embassy do they have you stationed at?
What embassies?
Isn't that what an ambassador does?
No, it's like a brand ambassador, fool.
What does that mean?
A brand like you're representing their stuff, like you're wearing their gear.
Oh.
You're repping. But I made this, like, me and my girlfriend went go for a hike, and I thought about it, and I'm like, nah, because I was gonna wear one of their hats. I'm like, I'll just wear like my regular hiking hat to cover this, And I go out, and she forgot like her water bottle or something. So I'm like, I'll run back in, and I pause. I'm like, do you think I should put the hat on? And she's like, so I'm like, all right. So I put the hat on, and like we just took a couple pictures as I'm like going up this hill, and then that was it. But I don't know. I just felt like okay, if I'm gonna do this, like I have to make it like me, where it's like, I don't know. I don't want to make it like disingenuous where, okay, I posted something and then like this is what I was thinking about, at the time, But I feel like if you do it too much, you just look like a jabroni.
Well, there's for sure people who like it comes to naturally and they love posting and they love like whatever, and they know how to benefit from like whatever, being an ambassador or whatever, right? Like whatever deal you make. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's all that.
It just takes away. Just be present.
I don't know. I'm trying to be that. Like, I just think it's stupid. Like even when someone is like good at it, like there's people who come through naturally and they're good at doing it. It's just like, I don't care what you're wearing. Like, why do I care what you're wearing?
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I don't care what supplements you're taking. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, they're not really trying to sell it to you though. They're trying to sell it to, their consumers. Like, don't you still trade commodities?
Yeah.
I mean, like, how does all that we're just talking about, like promotion and stuff like that, how does that affect maybe what you're doing, or does it at all?
Very little. It's just
what
a lot.
What exactly are you trading?
Ingredients. So it's very much just building relationships with people, just like personal relationships. People get to know you, they have to trust you, know you're going to do the right thing, and you communicate well. And it's it's harder than that, but that's the most important thing, is building trust and people knowing they can count on you. So
Yeah.
me posting anything on social media will really help me minimally. What I do.
You don't think so? Because
No.
It's like, if you call me up and you're like, hey, Brian, I'd like to buy some ingredients. I'm like, all right, cool. But then I see like, hey, like, you guys are having a kid, or you and Kate, you're going off and doing something cool. It's like, oh, this guy's a family guy. I like this. Like I might do business with the family guy if you posted it.
Well, I think the scale of some of the companies I work with are so large, they can care less. There's
Yeah.
probably 0% how much me posting about them matters. You know what I mean?
Fair
It's
enough.
like a lot of these ingredient manufacturers are, especially these domestic ones, are billion dollar companies that make the material. So me promoting them is probably less than a drop in a bucket.
It's probably more like, hey, can you get the job done? Right?
Yeah. Hey, why do we even care about selling you anything, right? Like, who are you? That's how you have to build the relationship and prove yourself that you're someone worth doing business with.
Yeah. So you've been back in Minnesota. Has it been for three years?
Yeah, it'll be 3
Years?
years here in the fall.
How is that, I guess, transition back, because like I said earlier, like, dude, you've been coaching college for so long. It's not like you're not coaching still, but like just going from that to now you're doing, just a completely different kind of work. I don't know, like in reflection, like how do you feel about that? Like, how has it been?
It's been great. I do really like it. I don't know. I guess the easiest way I've been able to explain it, it's a lot like competing again, right? Like the work is, for me, I'm building my book of business. So I got to show up and get as much done, work as hard as I can every day. And really it's about getting better every day, right? And finding ways to grow my business incrementally, right? Every day. And kind of feels like when I was competing, trying to get better, you're working on this, you're working on that, you're getting in better shape as you go, you're getting stronger, you're improving your game here and there. And that's a lot of it, right? And it feels a lot like competing. And I do like that part of it, because I mean, my success in this is really going to be determined by my effort, my ability to improve, and my ability to really maintain good relationships. So I don't know. I mean, couldn't ask for anything better than something that's dependent on myself. So,
Yeah.
it's at the end it's just a sales gig. So you gotta sell to make money.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of like pre-sale call routine that you do? Like, do you kind of like do some of this? And then you pick up the call and be like, hey, how's it going? I'm Manny Rivera. Do you do any of that?
Nope. I drink a ton of coffee. That's about it. But I used to do that when I was coaching. So I drink coffee.
I don't know if I told you this. So my mom, she came to watch, I think it was the Stanford duel. And I think we had one of the Stanford duels that we had at home. And I think it might have been your first year coaching at Bakersfield, but she came to watch, and she remembers seeing you in your car, just like get back in the car, and you were just like, so, because we lost, and you were just like like that. And she just caught you at that moment where you just like took a breath, But it's funny thinking about that. And I've had some of those moments. And I think the first time I did it, it's like I had like that sigh of relief. And I'm like, yeah, now I get it now, because it's like you just work. And then it's just like sometimes you just get, punched in the nuts, it's like, or even when you win, sometimes it's like that too. Like when you have a guy that has success, it's like when it's over, it's just like a relief. I don't know. Like, I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, it's I don't know. It's like you get amped up for those things, right? And then it's like you get in the heat of the competition, and it's like boom, 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 and then it's over, and then like then I was like, I remember just like thinking, oh, well, what message do I want to send the guys, and what did we do well? What do I want to highlight, right? You kind of want to celebrate positives, but you also want to point out negatives, and it's like your brain's going, and as soon as like I'd walk out of the wrestling room and get in my car and be like, oh man, all right. It's like, holy smokes. I just remember being like, that was a long night, right? Or a long day.
Yeah.
Katie's not here right now when you saw her earlier, but it'd be a funny joke if she was, because then I'd get home and then she'd always try to give me coaching advice. I'd just be like,
Yeah.
no.
Like what? Like what's Katie's coaching advice?
Well, it'd always be the obvious, right? She'd always be like, well, so-and-so needs to do this and that. And I was like, I know so-and-so needs to do this and that. Like, trust me,
Hey,
I'm well aware.
Brian needs to sprawl more.
Brian needs to get his legs back. He's got to attack his legs. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? I'll try to tell him. That's.
I mean, at least like, does she walk in?
Oh, yeah. She can hear you. We're talking about one of the home duels. His mom saw me in my car once after the duel where I was just kind of like decompressing, was just like, ugh. And then I said, well, you know what's even funnier is a lot of times I would get home and then Katie would try to tell me or give me coaching advice on what the team needed to do better.
Well,
Hey, well, Katie, so everything that he said, like, it sounds like you know what you're talking about.
I
That's
do,
a good
I
thing.
think.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, for sure. You can come in. You're already in the conversation. You can come on the screen if you want.
I'm good, thanks.
All right. Cool.
But yeah, so no, it's like you get then it's like, okay, you're kind of done being in the heat of the moment. And then it's like you start, and you probably do it. I don't know, maybe you do. I'm assuming you do, but you start just like reflecting on all the things you did leading up. And it's like, okay, well, what things did we do that worked and what didn't? And you're kind of like trying to figure it out. You're kind of guessing a little bit. And it's like, well, why so-and-so wrestled great this week and he wrestled crappy last week, or so-and-so wrestled crappy this week after having a good weekend last week. And you're like thinking about all these things, and it's like, like you said, like turning it off, right? That's kind of what we started with, is being able to step away. And sometimes it's hard right after a competition.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Like I just feel like I don't get like anxiety, and I love it. Like it's still so fun. But what makes it hard is like, at some point I want to start a family, and I don't want to bring that home. Like I would just want to I want to just be home and be present, not think about it. And that's I feel like that's been, one of my bigger challenges, and I think I'm getting better at it. But it's just trying to just let it go. Like don't hang on to it, because I know if I hang on to it, I just get going, and I just don't stop thinking about it. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's like an easy solution, but I think just what you said, like just think about relevance of importance. Like, do I have to answer this text right now? This parent calling me, do I have to answer it right now? I guess I can say I'm busy. I'm at home. It's 9:30. I don't want to talk to you right now,
Well, I think as you gain experience, and it's like I got better at all these things as I, kept coaching, and especially as I became a head coach, you get better at all these things. But it's like that process of assessment becomes a little bit easier. So it's like you kind of become more efficient, and you just learn more. So it probably will become a lot easier to step away and not get consumed by it, but it's still pretty hard sometimes.
Do you feel like so when you got out of coaching and you moved, for this job, and Katie got a good job too, right? And that was part of the decision. Do you feel like there was like, I don't want to say like a relief, but just knowing that you weren't gonna have to go through this, I don't want to say a grind, but wrestling can be a grind. I feel like coaching and traveling and all that stuff can be.
There were for sure some things where I was like, yeah, I'm kind of glad I don't have to I fundraised as best I could, but it wasn't like my favorite thing, It's like, I'm glad that was always a stress, right? I would try to do as best I can. I always try to make what we were doing better, but that was probably more stressful than any competition. It's like, yeah, we need to have enough money to keep this program functional and headed in the right direction. And it's a pretty huge responsibility, right, when you think about it. And that always weighed on me. But, I knew that going in, so I was like never going to complain about it. But when I resigned, it was kind of like, wow, I don't have to
yeah,
stress about that. Right.
Man. yeah, I don't envy the Bakersfield coaches, but man, yeah, that's such a big grind, because that's like I mean, how much would you have to fundraise a year?
Well, we
Like,
were
what?
just always fundraising as much as we could, but it was, $400,000 minimum, right? Somewhere in there. Some years were better than others, but um, it would, because it never ended. So you're just always trying to raise money, right? Because even if you raise X amount this year and it was more than we were going to use, it just rolled into the following year. So it was just nonstop, which is crazy, right? Like, and then think about that. We were trying to raise 300 to 400K a year, and you're hearing about programs offering 100K NIL money, 250K NIL money. It's like, holy smokes.
It's like, dude, that's how much it costs to like operate, our program for like a year, like $250,000, $300,000.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. That's like, that's crazy numbers. But dude, yeah. Hey man, we've been going for a cool minute. I think we got some good conversation, and I really like especially talking about the work-life balance stuff. I think, for me, like just hearing that and hearing people's perspectives on that, I feel like that's been super valuable. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I appreciate having you on, man.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Let's do it
You're
again.
welcome. Let's do it again. I'll talk about that thing if you want after we're done recording.
Yeah. No. Let me ask you, how do I become a somewhat regular on the podcast?
Dude, we could have
I still watch a
could
lot
have
of
your own
wrestling, so
special.
I'd like to actually talk about like some wrestling that happens. I still try to watch as much as I can.
Dude, let's do it. We could have Manny Mondays or something like that.
Well, I don't need to be on every week. I don't, I want you to grow the podcast. I don't need you to need me dragging it down, but yeah,
We'll give you a
maybe
for sure, man.
let's stay in touch a little bit more than we have been, and then maybe it's just after anytime there's a significant wrestling event, I'd for sure would love to catch up. Because I love talking wrestling. I still watch a ton of it. I work with a few wrestlers, so I get to talk a lot of wrestling at work, which is awesome.
Yeah. You talking about like college? You want to do like college stuff, like a big college event happens?
Well, I watch college, but I also watch I'll watch Final X this weekend, right?
Yeah.
But I'll watch. Actually, I'm planning a trip out to go watch the World Championship. So, I'm hoping to have that all scheduled soon.
Where is it at this year?
Serbia.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I feel like it's always in like Belgrade or places like that. But
yeah, it's in Belgrade, or however you say it. I say Belgrade, but
is that Hungary though?
That's Serbia.
Belgrade is in Belgrade. Belgrada.
Oh, I don't know.
Serbia?
Maybe we're saying different places.
I don't know.
But anyway,
I mean, there's so much turbulence in that part of the world. Might be Hungary one day and Serbia the next. I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. Love talking wrestling, so we can do it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
You'll have me. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, let me stop recording and we can talk a little bit after.
All right, you got it.
All right, man. You got anything else?
No, that's it, man. Thanks for having me. Hopefully I'll be back.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah.